Welcome back to the show. Another week, another conversation, another solo episode. However, we are working on maybe finding a guest, like a legit guest, not just, bringing random people in. Maybe trying to do like an interview of someone that I don't know, something like that. We're working on all that kind of stuff. So if you want to see somebody in particular, want them to come on the show, hit me up. Let me know. Comments, social media, Big Jake Linder on everything. And let me know who you would like me to chat with. Unless you're not sick of me chatting by myself, which is fantastic because the majority of this will be just me. And I've said this before, but today is probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode. I was going through all my notes and trying to figure out, all right, where are we going with today? And I think, of course, I've said that before, and then I've talked for, 40 minutes by myself. Without editing it, just going straight through. That was the first couple episodes, though. I had a lot to get off my chest. I think this one is going to be slightly shorter today. If you have not watched The Rip on Netflix, the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck new movie, there are spoilers. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm also going to talk about Hollywood in general and movie making and the way things are kind of going right now and my takes on everything. Now, I'm a regular dude. Regular dude reviewing movies is different than some of these other podcasts that talk about the lighting and the director's choices and all these sort of things. I'm a storyteller. I watch the movie. I report on it. That's kind of my thing. So if you haven't watched it yet and you want to, most of this episode is going to be about that and kind of my review and just my overall thoughts after watching a couple of different Matt Damon movies here lately. The newest one and the one I hadn't seen that I probably should have watched a long time ago. And then we're also going to talk about creating versus conversing today. I think I'm going to stop creating for the most part. Now, if I, you know how you hear all the time, people, content creator versus whatever. Like, I don't like all those words. I don't even like calling this a podcast. I know that's what it is, but it's a show. That's what I call it. I got to do the show. I got to record the show. So we're going to talk about creating versus conversing. And that's going to be about it. I don't know how long that's going to take. May take 10 minutes, may take 40 minutes. We'll keep it under an hour for sure. Welcome to the show. All right, we're going to dive right into The Rip on Netflix. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. I wouldn't say it's a must-watch, but it's definitely interesting. I feel like it's one of those movies that, now that I've watched it once, I may go back and watch it again and kind of see my feelings on it a second time. So if you don't know anything about it and you want to watch it, you might as well skip the majority of this episode because that's going to be mostly what we talk about. But it's about, there's so much to discover, to talk about here. So it's basically about a tactical narcotics team, a TNT team. And I believe it's set in Miami. So it's like, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck's version of like Bad Boys. Which I'm just now kind of putting that together. Like I wasn't just putting it together, but it's kind of reminds me of that a little bit over exaggerated. That's movies, that's Hollywood. That's kind of the point, right? And that's some of what we'll get into. So it's this group, this TNT team, and it starts out where the opening scene is basically like somebody getting murdered. So you kind of know that's the climax. They throw it to you at the very beginning to hook you, which I think is kind of how movies are being made nowadays. I'm seeing a lot of like, here's the climax, here's where the twist would happen, and then eventually we'll get to something else, and then there's another twist down the line, and you just gotta wait for it. But what's interesting about this movie is there's never really a twist, and you're waiting for the twist the whole time. You're waiting for them to become the bad guy. And it's interesting how that's what I was waiting for. I found myself sitting there like, all right, when are we going to have the scene where they take the money and they're actually the bad guys? They're the good guys, right? That's kind of the whole premise of the movie is they're the good guys. They're always the good guys. That's what Matt Damon talks about with that the chick in the house, the snitch or whatever, his tattoos on his hand. Are we really the good guys the other hand said always or every day or whatever. I don't remember exactly, but you're waiting for the twist. You're waiting for them to become the bad guys. And they just never do. Unless I just flat out miss something, they never become the bad guys. And I don't know if that pisses me off or it kind of makes me happy. It's like, oh, well, you don't have to be bad to have, like, you can be a good person. We've talked about this before, how we talked about this last week. I just now remembered how, good people put their faith in something bigger than them. Doesn't have to be religious, so to speak. It could just be universe-based. But good people try to do good things, and they believe that the universe or some sort of higher power or whatever they put their faith in will reward them for that. And this movie is all about the struggles with that, but there's also a piece of me that they weren't really ever struggling with it. They were more so struggling with how do we find out why our friend / girlfriend or whatever it was is killed. Because in the movie, again, spoilers, Ben Affleck is hooking up with the chief of police at whatever this precinct is, I guess is what you call it. And Matt Damon's character is just friends with them both. Well, then the chief gets murdered, and nobody can quite figure out who's behind it. And there's part of them, they're like, is this an inside job? Did cops kill her? And then it's like, why don't they want to investigate that? So there's all this going on at the same time. But then Matt Damon's character is almost playing the part of pretend bad guy to try to snuff out the rat. Is kind of the gist of what's going on. And throughout the whole movie, you're waiting for, unless you're like me, you're waiting for him to actually do the bad thing. You're not quite sure if he is, though. So maybe that's what makes his performance in that movie a little bit better, is I personally never believed that Matt Damon was a bad guy. I was waiting for proof the entire time. I was waiting for proof that they all were bad guys. And why is that? Is that because in all these movies, that's what you are conditioned to see? Is, even the good guy in the very end, there's a twist. Or if you watch certain movies, it's like you fall in love with the bad guy, American Gangster. I mean, Denzel Washington's character was a drug dealer and killed people, but because he did good things to good people, you fall in love with this character, and it's great acting. Johnny Depp in Blow. Not a great dude, drug dealer, caused a lot of problems, but because great acting and a great story, you kind of fall in love with the bad guy a little bit. Some of the most popular shows, there's a bad guy. Tony Soprano, The Sopranos. He's a bad guy, but he's also kind of a good guy. So you fall in love with the good guy, and that's the magic of Hollywood and filmmaking and TV making and all that sort of thing. And I think it can go the other way after watching The Rip. I was waiting for Matt Damon's character to actually do something as the bad guy. I was waiting for the scene, and I thought it was coming. If you watched it, or you will watch it, and you don't care about spoilers, the scene where they drive the old beat-up car that was in the garage full of all the 5-gallon buckets with the money in it, and they're driving the snitch away, I thought that was like the scene, where, all right, the bad guys are these people, the group that went to the house, and now the girls are taken away. I thought that was the twist. I was like, there it is. All right. Now they're going to go away in the other vehicle and, I don't know, figure it out or something like that. But then you realize, like, wait a minute, there's a murder to solve here. We're still trying to solve a murder. And so then you're still waiting, like, well, maybe they're not the bad. I never truly believed that Matt Damon was a bad guy. And that's credit to, I guess, his acting and the storytelling in the movie. Because I was waiting the entire time. And it never happens. Unless I just flat out missed something. Which if I did, let me know. But I was watching. I was watching intently, waiting for him to become the bad guy. And in the end, they all just were like, yeah, we're good people. That's kind of the story of everything. And it's just crazy to, on a larger scale, a deeper level, the fact that this is one of the first. Now, I'm sure I'm missing some, but I'm trying to think of a movie or a show where your favorite character was actually a good guy for the most part. I guess maybe Bad Boys. You know, those guys were good guys through and through. So maybe that's why Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wanted to do this cop movie, this buddy cop movie type thing. I tell you one thing, though, the most ridiculous part of the whole deal, Ben Affleck just can't get away from lazy face. It's simple. Great actor. I believed him, as the cool cop type thing, but you just can't get away from like I'm too good to listen to the authority in the room and that sort of thing. And he's wearing, like, if you look at Matt Damon's character, he's much more like, shirt tucked in, belt cinched up, pants pulled up kind of thing. And whatever, you don't have to, I'm not saying that, but then Ben Affleck's character is like a little bit, saggier jeans, t-shirt untucked. He's got the Jordans on, which, okay. I'm all for, like, the cool guy in the movie wearing the cool stuff. But the Jordans he was wearing in that movie, maybe they're popular, but he made them look like ass. Whenever you put that big flappy tongue of the shoe out in front of your jeans, it looks like ass. I don't care. Say what you want. Maybe some people can pull it off. Ben Affleck, in the rip, did not pull off the big flappy tongue coming out of his Jordans in that particular scene. It's like one of the first scenes in the movie. They're walking outside to a barbecue in a parking lot of a police station when the DEA pulls up in an armored tanker truck and Kyle Chandler gets out. Coach Taylor gets out of the tanker truck and they're just drinking beer on the job, grilling in the parking lot. It's like, in what world does this happen? In what world is this actually true? But that's Hollywood. And that's part of the reason why you have to be able to watch movies and understand that. And you have to be able to watch shows and be like, this is a little bit ridiculous and a little bit outlandish what I'm seeing in front of me here. Cops having a barbecue, drinking, sitting in lawn chairs out in front of a police station. But all right, but aside from that, let's just focus on, they're trying to act like, they're team building, and I get it. But the Jordans, and then he kept them on, and then when he's running up the street, this was like, there ain't no way, as cool as you may be, if you're just not wearing that stuff, or at least you're not wearing that particular pair. You got to wear a pair that give you some movement, not this big ass flappy tongue coming out of the front of your jeans on your Jordans. So that part was a little bit ridiculous, but it goes back to what I'm saying. Hollywood and movie making. So Hollywood is supposed to take like a regular story, great or not, even if it's just a regular story, especially the stories that maybe you have never even heard of, and expose you to them and tell them to you in a magical or even an exaggerated fashion. Where maybe they alter some of the events, but the overall basis to these stories is true. Or even if it's fiction, it's an exaggeration of something else. And you're supposed to be able to if it's fiction, you're supposed to be able to get lost in it and enjoy it and have a good time. If it's based on a true story, like The Rip is based on at least a guy that was in Miami that lost his son. Matt Damon's character is at least somewhat true. The rest of it, I think, is it's obviously over the top Hollywood type stuff. But that's what they're supposed to do. And it reminded me, there's two things that this movie and another Matt Damon movie, which I just watched the other day. You know how Netflix does that? When they have a new movie out, they give you all the old movies that particular actor was in. So, like, Matt Damon's got a new movie out. Now, all of a sudden, I can watch 10 of his movies on Netflix. So it makes sense. I mean, it worked for me. I saw that Matt Damon had a new movie coming out, and so I watched Ford versus Ferrari for the first time. Now, to some people, and maybe bigger sports fans than I, maybe that was a massive story, and maybe I was living under a rock and didn't know about the whole, Ford versus Ferrari thing. And that's fine. However, that was a true story, And the way it was told to me in that movie made me feel something totally different. That story and the way it was told in Ford versus Ferrari made me want to go down the rabbit hole of the movie and search the history on it. I just, the other day, for the second time, I've seen it before, but it was on Netflix all of a sudden. It's a great movie. I watched 12 Years a Slave. That's a story that could have been lost to the history books or only known by a certain select number of people or to historians. But because it's such a great movie, and the story itself is one of millions of other stories, almost just like it, not exactly like it, but just like it, Hollywood did its job. For once, they did their job. You know, they told a story, exaggerated in some facets, sure, but they told a story that maybe people didn't know about, and they made you buy into that story, and they made you aware of something, and they made you interested in something, and you got lost in something. That's what they're supposed to do, and that's what a good movie is supposed to do. And I'll be honest, I got lost in the rip. And I got lost in the fact that I kept waiting for them to actually turn bad. And I don't necessarily know why. I'm guessing it's we're conditioned to always assume that the people are bad in these movies, in these TV shows. You know, you watch Breaking Bad, and Walter White, he's always supposed to be the good guy, but he kept doing bad things. And it wasn't until he decided, he was like, you know what, I really am kind of just, I'm the bad guy. But you loved him throughout the whole movie. You never hated him. You never hated his character. And in that movie, I kept telling my wife when we're watching it, I'm like, I just don't feel like Matt Damon is actually a bad guy in this movie. I know he's, you know, his son died of cancer and he's reeling from that, and his best friend, the chief of police, was murdered. Nobody wants to, you know, investigate the crime, but I just kept feeling like he's playing a game. He's trying to snuff out somebody. And I think the moment I realized that was probably true is whenever Glenn off The Walking Dead, what's his character? Steven Wynn, or something like that. His character had the burner phone, which you don't really know it's a burner phone. You think it's just an extra phone. I don't think anybody really thought that he was the bad guy until a little bit later in the movie. I had my doubts about, unfortunately, Kyle Chandler. Coach Taylor, I was on to you a little bit sooner. I think whenever Matt Damon was staring out the window right before he goes outside to the barbecue in the parking lot at the police station. So ridiculous. When he was staring at him and they kind of like changed the music and changed the tone, I think I knew that was like, Matt Damon's character at least knows that guy is dirty, you know? So yeah, waiting for him to become the bad guy, and he never does. And just like his tattoos on that whole movie, are we the good guys? And it was the answer was all day, every day, or whatever it was. Just interesting. So if you haven't seen The Rip, go check it out. As far as like overall movie, I don't know, 6.8 out of 10. I'm just a regular guy ranking movies, watching movies. The lighting, I don't care. I mean, as long as it's not terrible, I pay attention to the story and how it makes me feel. And it made me feel I was in on it. And I was questioning everything, and I was waiting for the twist. And then there is the twist, but it's not in the way that you think. Like, you're waiting for the good guys to become the bad guys because you've fallen in love with these good guy characters. And you know, and they made you feel like they deserved to be able to steal that money. Even though they knew it was wrong, you felt like they deserved it because they are the good guys. They can finally get theirs. And it's okay. You guys should take it. But they don't because they're always the good guys. So yeah, Matt Damon switching it up. And Ben Affleck wearing floppy tongue Jordans on the front of his jeans, looking like an idiot. But he plays the cool guy. I tell you what, plays the cool guy better than anybody else. Let's go check out The Rip on Netflix. Now, the only other topic I had for today was a note I put in my phone, put my notes app on my phone. I thought of this phrase, and maybe I heard it, and I didn't actually think of it, but it did resonate with me because I have a lot of trouble creating, I hate this phrase, creating content. I have a lot of trouble with that out of nowhere. Like if I find them, because I think I just live in a moment, and then after the moment's over, I'm like, oh, that's funny. That would have made a funny video. So in the moment, I have trouble creating things out of nothing, in a sense. And I'm way more long form and conversational than I am skit or, writing stuff down. I'm a storyteller, and that's why the movie thing and the show thing, it resonates with me if it's a good story, whether it's fiction or a real story. That's what makes me feel something. So I wrote in my notes, I said, stop creating and start conversing. Stop creating and start conversing. I think a huge reason why many years in a row I would send out a highlight reel, we call it an air check in the radio business, to openings and job opportunities, and I wouldn't get a lot of feedback, or I wouldn't get jobs, or I wouldn't even get interviews. And I'd be looking for at least some feedback on, what did you think of this? What did you think of that? And a lot of them would say, maybe you just get to the point a little quicker, and that's fine. Maybe I should. And maybe I'll never be as popular as some because I don't get to the point as fast. I don't rush anything. Now, I clip some of my stuff on here, and I put it out there. But, I mean, the clips are potentially going to be anywhere from 45 seconds to almost 3 minutes, And I think I am just better suited as a storyteller, more long form, more conversational type content creation. So stop creating and start conversing. They want us all to stop talking. And I don't know who they is. I'm not blaming a government entity or anybody in particular, so you can just cancel that shit right now. I say they as in people who want other people to stay down. And this isn't like stick it to the man type thing, but overall, I think that there is a large group of people, or whatever you may want to call them, that want others to stop talking. They want you to stop communicating. They want you to stop questioning things. They want you to not be in person anymore. They want you to not know how to socially interact. They don't want you to know how to react to situations. They want you brain rot. They want you brain rot dead. Examples: self-checkout, food delivery. Just leave it at the door. Don't question it. Don't go against the tide. It's easier to fall in line. It's easier to fall in line or to do what's easy. And I think I've had this conversation with people. I think it's creating a generation of people who don't know how to talk to each other, who think they want to start a podcast, but then they get on and they start doing this, and they have troubles carrying a conversation. They have trouble. They speak in clips. And so I'm going to stop creating and I'm going to start conversing more. I'm going to try to be better about, starting conversations out of the blue. Now, I will say there are times and places to just kind of let people be. Let them do their thing. You can and that's what social cues are about, though. That's what seeing other people, and if you're trying to kind of have a back and forth with them, for prime example, you go to the register, you're checking out, and maybe you're in the mood to kind of have a back and forth with somebody, and you can just tell that they're just not really feeling it, so shut it down. That's fine. That's what social cues are. And you'll never be able to pick up on those if you aren't well-versed in conversation versus non-conversation. And you're just always trying to be one or the other. You're either always trying to be over the top, and some of those people are great and they're fun, but they get on your nerves, right? And then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum, people that just don't want social interaction. If they never had to leave their house, they would be much happier. And there are times where I don't want to leave my house. I have no interest in moving. I pay a lot of money to live here, so I want to sit here and do nothing. And I don't want anybody talking to me. I don't want all those things. And all those things can be true. but also at the same time, you know what makes me a better human being, better an interaction, more able to pick up on social cues, more able to be out in the wild and befriend people and carry on conversations. Don't you hate whenever there's a lull in the conversation? And sometimes awkward silences are okay to sit in, but don't you hate whenever there's a lull in the conversation and your brain is just like, I can't think of how to carry on this conversation? That would for me, that drives me nuts. I want to be able to keep this person either interested in me and what I have to say, or make them feel like that they are either interesting, or make them feel like I care. Because I do care, but sometimes I just don't know what to say. And sometimes it's okay to say that. Sometimes it's okay to be like, I guess we've talked about everything we can talk about. Crack a joke, move on to the next thing. So I think it's just, for whatever reason, this has been kind of, in 2026, or whatever you want to call it, I have cared a little bit less about creating something out of thin air, or coming up with the perfect idea or the perfect script. If I feel something and I want to say something, now I don't want to ramble, which is pretty much what I do on here. So this is more of a ramble, what I'm talking about here. But if you just slow down for a couple of seconds and listen to what somebody's having to say, you might find something worth what they're saying in your life, and that applies to you. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I'm a firm believer that storytelling and sharing experiences is almost as important as anything else that you can do when it comes to helping people. Giving money away, donations of food, clothes, toys, other items, whatever. But sharing a story can almost be as powerful and as effective as anything else in life. It's been true in my weight loss journey, which we're down 4 pounds, by the way, and also up 2 pounds in muscle mass, and down, I think we're down 6 pounds total, because our body fat percentage went down 2 points too, but then our muscle mass went up 2 percentage points. So technically I'm 4 fat pounds down, but 6 pounds total, but I gained muscle. Squirrel. Back to the point. I don't even know where I was. You just have to, you'll be much better off, no matter your age either. Because let's not get it twisted. I think a lot of people are going to see some of this, if you've made it this far, and you're going to be like, oh, this is just for whatever is it Gen Z? Gen Z, people. Or some of you might think, oh, this is just for millennials. This could be for any generation. Talking to people, having an interaction with a stranger, learning how to just be a pleasant person out in the wild is going to go further for you than trying to be like, I'm just an introvert and I don't have any interest in being with people. And that is fine. There are huge parts of me. Last night I thought about this. We went out to dinner and my wife and I had the conversation. We didn't really want to cook anything. We were drained from the weekend and everything like that. So we were like, do we want to just like fend for yourself, kind of eat whatever's around? We just had frozen pizza the night before, so we didn't want to do that. It's like, or, do we want to go ahead and order something and go get it, bring it back here and just chill? Or do we actually want to get out of the house? And neither one of us really wanted to get out of the house. But there was a couple things at play here. We felt like it would be better not only for us to get out of the house and get moving a little bit and interact in a social setting, but also be better for our kids. If they were cooped up for the next 2.5 hours, bedtime would have been an absolute nightmare. Not that it was great after we come back from the restaurant, but at least getting out, interacting, getting in the car, seeing people, being reprimanded or whatever about how to sit at a table in a restaurant because they hadn't been in one in a while. Just all those activities kind of got us back in the groove of life. So getting up this morning was tough because everybody's a little sleepy, but overall, it got us back in the groove of life and wanting to move forward and get after the day. And so that was the choice we made last night, and it was delicious food, and it was a great choice. And we knew if we ordered and brought it back, it's just never the same, right? So we ate it there, didn't bring anything home, and it was fantastic. So I guess, long story even longer, I am more long form. When it comes to content and things online, there's a good chance you're going to see a 90-second or a 2.5-minute video. But if we all just slow down, hear the storytelling, and share our experiences, I think we're going to be better off as long as we stop creating and start conversing more. I hope you enjoyed the episode. That's all I got. It's a little bit shorter than normal, but that's okay. We had a lot to cover as far as themes of life, and I think we did all right. So go watch The Rip on Netflix, 6.8 out of 10. I may watch it again. I enjoyed it. And stop creating, start conversing, and get out there a little bit in your daily life. If you're going to do an introvert day, maybe do an extrovert day. It'll help you. Depression can't hit a moving target, so it can't hurt to get out there and do a couple of things and then go back into your hermit phase for a week or so. Just try to mix it up, and you're going to be better off. I honestly think everybody should work in retail, customer service, sales a little bit. Get your social abilities up and get your conversation skills up some, and you'll be much happier in the end. And trust me, I don't love random chit-chat or surface-level bullshit conversations. So I get it if that's a problem for you. But sometimes you cut your teeth and you kind of hone in on your skills with the surface-level chit-chat, and you learn how to be a little bit more extroverted, but also you learn how to be a little bit better of a conversationalist, I guess is what you want to call it, with other people. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If there's any guests you want me to see, any topics you want me to cover, anything that I missed, or if you have any comments about the show or what I've said, let me know. Big Jake Linder on all social platforms. Make it a great day. Make your own way. You only get one of these lives. So make sure you make your own way, because all you have is this one life and your name. And the name is truly what make it. I'll see you next week.